Hey everyone, Dr. Kem here, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the absolute foundation of all science and data collection. We're going to break down the essential concepts of measurement uncertainty and analytical errors. Because whether you're working in a high-tech chemistry lab or just trying to wrap your head around everyday statistics, mastering how we actually measure the world is completely vital. So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off by defining uncertainty. Then we'll untangle accuracy from precision. After that, we're categorizing specific types of errors, systematic, random, and gross. And finally, we'll wrap up with exactly how to manage the whole shebang mathematically. All right, section 1, the margin of doubt. Let's look at a fundamental truth of the universe, why literally no measurement is ever perfectly pristine. Think about it. Whenever you use an instrument to measure something, whether that's the curve of a literal banana or a super sensitive chemical reaction, there is always an unavoidable margin of doubt. In everyday life, we might say a stick is 2 meters long, give or take a centimeter. Well, in science, we call this the uncertainty of measurement. It's just how we quantify the doubt that inherently exists in any result. And hey, it doesn't mean you messed up. It just means there's a strict limit to how well we can know a true value based on our tools and our environments. Which naturally brings up a pretty fascinating question. Can we ever achieve a perfectly exact measurement, or are we just doomed to always account for some level of uncertainty? Well, the reality is that the total variability in any measurement is always a combination of the system's actual true variability plus whatever error we introduce during the analysis. Because of that, we always have to account for uncertainty. We aren't really chasing perfection here. We're just trying to minimize errors so we can actually understand what we're looking at. Moving on to section 2, accuracy versus precision. Let's separate these terms once and for all. To really handle that margin of doubt, we have to stop using accuracy and precision interchangeably, because scientifically, they are totally different beasts. Accuracy is all about how close your measurement is to the actual true value. Precision strictly measures reproducibility. It's just how tightly grouped your repeated measurements are, completely regardless of whether they are right or wrong. You could have an incredibly precise set of data, all clustered tightly together, but if they're nowhere near the true value, well, your accuracy is terrible. Getting this difference is the absolute bedrock of this scientific method. In fact, the International Organization for Standardization, the ISO, actually prefers the word trueness to capture this idea. According to their standards, trueness represents how closely the average of a massive number of test results aligns with the accepted reference value. So, when we ask for high accuracy, what we're really demanding is high precision paired with high trueness. Section 3, systematic error and bias. Let's talk about what happens when things are just consistently off. When your measurements are consistently missing the mark and ruining your trueness, we call that a systematic or determinate error. This is the kind of error that drags your whole dataset consistently too high or too low, creating a real bias. There are 3 usual suspects here. First, instrumental errors. Imagine a 10 milliliter pipette that actually spits out 10.02 milliliters because of a tiny manufacturing flaw, or maybe a battery losing voltage over time. Second, method errors. These are sneaky, arising from the system's actual physical or chemical behavior, like a reaction that's just unexpectedly slow. And third, personal errors. Let's be honest, this is human error, carelessness, inattention, or just the inherent bias of the person making a judgment call. This is a brilliant example right here, a classic personal error called the parallax effect. If you're trying to read a scale that has a little pointer, just tilting your head and looking at it from the wrong angle will permanently shift your measurement. One person might read it consistently high, the next person reads it consistently low. It's a one-way, systematic error that completely skews your accuracy, and you might not even realize you're doing it. When we plot this out, you can literally see absolute error in action. Check out this nitrogen determination experiment. Notice how the data points for analyst 1 and analyst 2 are tightly packed together? That is fantastic precision. But a systematic error has dragged their entire dataset completely away from the true value line, which sits right at 0. That gap between their average result and the true value, that's the absolute error. It's a perfect visual of how a reproducible flaw pulls everything off target. The good news is, once you spot a systematic error, you can almost always correct it. All right, section 4, the nature of random error. Time to look at uncontrollable variables. Let's shift gears to a completely different beast, one that messes with our precision rather than our trueness. Random, or indeterminate error. This is an inescapable part of every single measurement you will ever make. While systematic errors shove all your data in one specific direction, random errors are caused by tiny, totally uncontrollable fluctuations in your environment or your instruments. We're talking a slight breeze or a tiny blip of electrical noise on a digital scale. You might weigh a sample 3 times and get 17.46, 17.42, and 17.44 grams. You literally cannot eliminate random error. It's just a fundamental quirk of the universe that makes your data scatter. But here's the cool part. Because these random fluctuations have an equal chance of being positive or negative, they don't drag your data entirely off to one side. Instead, if you take enough measurements, they naturally form this beautiful, symmetrical bell curve distribution right around your mean value. And the rule here is simple. The narrower your bell curve, the higher your precision. The wider it gets, the more random error is bouncing around in your data. Section 5. Gross errors and outliers. The major human blunders. So we've covered the subtle shifts of systematic bias and the random scatter of nature. Now we have to talk about the jarring third category, gross errors. Let's call them what they are, major human blunders. They don't happen often, but man, when they do, they are huge. We're talking about spilling half your sample on the floor, writing down a totally wrong number, or using the wrong chemical entirely. These mistakes create massive outliers that look nothing like the rest of your replicate measurements, and they can completely ruin an otherwise beautiful data set. Which brings us to our final section. Calculating and expressing uncertainty. How do we actually find our best estimate? So you know about bias, scatter, and gross blunders. How do we actually do the math to find our best estimate of the truth? The most bulletproof solution comes down to 3 basic steps. First, repeat the measurement. If you only measure once, a gross error could slip by completely unnoticed. Taking somewhere between 4 and 10 readings is usually the sweet spot. Step 2, calculate the arithmetic mean, or the average. That mean acts as a sort of shock absorber, smoothing out those random errors and giving you your best estimate of the true value. And finally, step 3, calculate the standard deviation. This gives you a hard mathematical number for your data spread, telling you exactly how much random error you're dealing with. Now, when you're finalizing all this math, you'll usually want to express things as a percentage or relative error. This tells you how big the error is compared to the actual measurement, which is super important when estimating bias or calculating recovery rates. But listen to this. It is absolutely crucial that you scale your percent error realistically. If your calculator spits out 3.1634%, please don't write all those digits down. Your final result can never magically be more accurate than the instrument you used in the first place. In the real world, just round it to something like plus 3%. Slapping on extra decimal points just creates a totally false illusion of precision. So as you head back into the lab, or the field, or wherever you collect your data, remember that managing this margin of doubt is entirely in your hands. If you don't take the time to repeat your measurements, you might end up like the unlucky craftsman who accidentally chopped the entire leg off his own trousers. And that brings us to the ultimate takeaway. You've heard the old saying, right? Measure twice, cut once. Well, in our world, it's more like measure thrice, cut once. It perfectly sums up the secret to minimizing uncertainty. Repeating your measurements really is the absolute best defense you have against wild, gross errors and random fluctuations. So the next time you're staring down a fresh set of data, I want you to ask yourself this. Are your results actually true, or are you just reproducing the exact same systematic bias over and over again with absolute perfect precision? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this helps you see our numbers in a whole new light.